Welcome back, everybody, to part 4 of the Builder's Business Blueprint. I'm super excited about today because we finally get to put everything we put and reviewed the last 3 weeks all into one final product, which is going to be your blueprint. So that's today's objective, what we want to keep in mind. Today, we finally develop your own blueprint. But before we can do that, we have to remember, we have to do a recap of what we learned in the last 3 weeks, part 1 through 3. So we're going to jump in. If you guys can remember with us, in part 1, we talked about the introduction, but the introduction is really the contract that you have with yourself. And we recognize that's so valuable, that's so important, because you have to make the agreement with yourself before any of this falls into place. You need to work and have that dedication and have that commitment within yourself, just like you need that contract before you jump into any job site. You need to be aware of what's going to be involved, how much time it's going to take, as well as have the vision for the year so that you can have and attack your goal without stress, without doubt in your mind. But that all begins with you, the contract you have to sign with yourself. After you may have that contract, after you have that signed, we jump into part 2, which comes to the foundation. Just like a project, just like a structure, you see that the solid foundation has to be built before we can even do anything, before there's any roughing, before there's any framing, before there's anything that can get done. The foundation has to be built, and that foundation is you. So you made the contract with yourself, but what are you going to do? You as the foundation, you as the engine of your company, how are you going to handle the pressures that come with running a company, within running your industry? That's why we have to jump in and think about what are some of our choke points? What are some of our weaknesses? Remember, in part 2, we jumped into the foundation. You have to do a personal assessment as well as a business assessment. You have to understand what ground you're standing on, just like the foundation. You have to understand that you are only as strong as your weakest link. And in business, most times contractors, you are that weakest link. So you have to take that into consideration. So not only are you ready, you sign the contract, I'm going to do it. Then the next step is the foundation. You understand your weaknesses, your blind spots, things that you're not strong in. This is the time to now start developing those skills. After you have a solid footing, let's jump into business. Now, part 3 was the structure. We understand so many people, when they come into contracting, they hit the floor running. They're ready to make some money. They're ready because they quit their job. Now they have all this responsibility. You already signed the contract with yourself. You already did the self-development. You know that you're ready to tackle anything. But guess what? In part 3, we understood that you are governed by the parameters of your industry or your market. That's right. Just like a job site, everything within that structure is your responsibility. So if you're in that structure, those walls dictate how fast you grow, how far you go, and all of that is determined by us in business with our industry. We looked at some of the examples of the biggest companies or the most long-lived companies. For example, in Japan, there's a company that's been around for 1,000 years. And guess what? They're a contracting company. So we know our cap, 1,000 plus years. Let's bring it closer to home. We understand there's companies within the US, over here in Massachusetts, that's been around for 100 years, contracting companies. So we see our high points. We also know our low points within our industry, within contracting. We understand that within 5 years, 63% of you are going to end up closing down shop because you did not grow, you did not systemize, you don't have a blueprint for your business. So we understand we have the potential of 100 years within the US. We also have less than 5. So how do we make that work? By understanding our parameters, understanding our industry, understanding the structure in which we need to operate in. We also learn how much money we can make, how much wiggle room do we have. All of that is by data and what the industry and market is dictating us. After we know what niche we're going to be in, after we know what state we're in, after we know what type of competitors are in the field, remember, a lot of us are experiencing the unlicensed worker taking work away from us. But if you have a blueprint, you can now calculate for those issues that come into the field. So now we have a plan of attacking. We shouldn't be reactive to situations. You should already have a blueprint on how you're going to handle that. And guess what? If this is your first time hearing about that or thinking about that, we're going to develop all of those things today in the final part 4 of our Builders Business Blueprint. Can't wait to break this down with you guys all. Once again, this is just a taste of what we are going to be discovering, what we're going to be going over together December 21st of 2024, where we're going to have a 6-hour business workshop where we're going to go over part 1 through 4 with our own workbook that we send each and every one of you to fill out with graphics, with goals, notes where you can take down, and we're going to develop our own business plan for 2025. So then when January 1st comes, you're not one of the few who are just saying, okay, let me start now. We already have our plan. We already have our roadblocks. We already have our choke points. We know how to navigate them. And we're going to make 2025 amazing, 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 successful year as a contractor, either in your first year or you're systemizing if you're already a contractor. So I can't wait to jump in this with you all in our Build Association, December 21st for our business workshop. Now, we're jumping into part 4. We already did the recap of part 1, 2, and 3. The contract, the foundation, the structure. Now, the blueprint. How are we going to now jump into that? Backing off of part 3, we already jumped into what our parameters are. What does the industry expect from us? What does it want from us? And what are we going to now do in relationship to the market? What's our vision at the end of it? So let's write down our vision statements. Let's write down our mission statements. For example, I'm going to give you ours here at Energize Us. At Energize Us, we're going to empower generations towards the skilled trades. That's our vision. That's what we see throughout the U.S. We're going to travel. We're going to meet with contractors. We're going to meet with individuals, talk to schools, talk to different events to bring up interest in the skilled trade. So our vision is to empower generations towards the skilled trades. Mission statement. How are we going to go about tackling that? We are going to handle this. We are going to empower generations through 3 manners: through media, through education, and through professional development. That's how we're going to build builders and leaders within the skilled trades. That's a vision statement where you guys want to go, where you see yourself. The industry, the market we're in, allows us to have that type of vision. Now, just for the fact that we can now visually see it, this is where we want to go. Empower generation. What does your vision board look like? Because this is a vision statement. What does your vision board look like? Where do you see yourself by the end of the year? Where do you see yourself in 3, 5, 10 years? Those are all things to keep in mind. Make a visual representation of your statement. But a vision statement is verbally, so others understand where you are headed. And you're going to see why that's important, because down here, we're going to start putting that into a timetable, and you're going to see, depending on your vision, depending on your mission, you're going to know the speed in which you need to operate at to now reach that vision. But for starters, creating that vision statement. At Energize Us, we are going to empower generations towards the skilled trades. Mission statement. And what means are you going to do that? How are you going to empower generations? Through media, education, and professional development, we are going to build builders and leaders in the skilled trades. So you know who we're talking about. We know our target audience. You know the means in which we're going to attack that work, attack that scope, attack that vision. And at the end of it, we're going to have builders and leaders. You want that clear representation. So whoever hears your vision statement, whoever sees your vision board, or whoever hears your mission statement, they already know exactly who you are, what you're going to do, and who you are prospecting. That's why this part is so important, because just putting it down on paper of what you're going to do for 2025, just like that contract, you now know, boom, this is what I'm going to work towards for the year. And that's going to be your solid foundation. That's going to be what's going to ground you when it comes to the rest of the year, when it comes to checkups, monthly, quarterly, as well as yearly checkups. And then remember, visions only get you so far. Without action on your visions, you're just daydreaming. So what is that target revenue you're looking for? When it comes to business, as much as we want to be passionate about the trades, as much as we are passionate about the work that we do, we understand we need a bottom line. We have a number that we're aiming for. So for example, if you're looking to just make $1,000 a day, like a lot of you are, in the comments, you're messaging how I just want enough money, for example, for your first year, so I don't lose anything from quitting my job. So you're looking at 80 to 100K. Let's say you want $1,000 a day now. So you're looking at around 300 to 350K a year. Let's say you want to hit your first $1 million of revenue. Each one of those, once again, is amazing. The simple fact that you have a vision. But you're going to see, once you dictate how much money you want, that's going to tell you how fast you need to operate, because we all have the same 12 months. How are you going to reach your goal within 12 months? Are you able to handle all that work? We only have 24 hours in a day. Or are you going to start duplicating yourself? How do you duplicate yourself? Or you're going to have to start hiring somebody. So if you know as a baseline, for example, let's write these down for us so we don't forget it. If we know, for some people coming in as a contractor their first year, the first plateau So for a lot of you individuals who are just starting off business, remember, you want to make sure you don't lose too much, because then if you quit your job, everyone's going to throw it in your face. Oh my God, you're struggling. So for most of us who have a union job, who work with an electrical contractor, we're looking at 80 to 100K. So if you quit your job, you want to make just enough to reach your 80 to 100K, just so there's no change in lifestyle for you. The next goal, after you get a reputation, after you start building up clients, you start making roughly around $1,000 a day. So for people in 3 to 5 year range, that's when you start having a leg on the industry. That's when people already know you, you already have a reputation, you got good reviews, you understand how to talk to people, you're developing those soft skills, people trust you, you understand on how to express yourself, how to express the work, land the jobs. You're looking at $1,000 a day, which for yourself, roughly around 300 to 350K. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, for individuals who want to get to 5 year plus, remember that's over the hurdle. That's over here is when people, 63% already closed down shop. So if you made it to past the 5 year mark, you're starting at touching close to 1 mil rev, or that should be a goal for you, 1 mil rev. But what happens? You can only work so hard in the field. You can only hustle for so long. So depending on your goal, you might have to duplicate yourself. Because if you can make 350 a year, let's say you have 2 crews, now you're looking at 6 to 7. 3 crews, now you're looking at 1 milli. Depending on what your goal is, will dictate how fast or how much you need to duplicate yourself for 2025 coming up. But once again, now we're going to jump into the yearly. So, for example, if this is your first year in business, and you're making roughly 80 to 100K a year, you can say, hey, this year, if we break down, this year, if we break down into 12 months, 80 to 100K, so you're looking at less than 10K a month, you're looking around 8K. So Tommy, if you can do 8 times 12, please.
Yeah.
So in January, let's say you made 8K. You made 8K.
Times 12.
Perfect. 8K. 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 So we're going to do $8,000 a month throughout the year. Okay, guys? Which brings us to roughly $96,000 a year. So let's say you're a contractor and in your first year, you work your butt off just to make $1,000 a week, roughly. That brings you to $4,000 a month or to $8,000 a month. So every month you bring in $8,000 revenue. So you're hitting your target goal of 80 to 100K because this broken down 8 times 12 is 96,000 a year. So you can say, yes, I quit my job and there was no difference. So that's one panel upgrade a week you can do. Or you can break it down even more. If you do a lot of service calls, you understand that's probably 2,000 divided by the average service call, which is 250. So you need to do 10 service calls a week to get your 2,000 a week, right? Or you need 2 service upgrades a month, and that's how you have to start breaking things down. So if this year you decide you want to make 350K, just like the structure, just like the parameters in which we work on, just like our foundation, we have to get a baseline. Just like we said, sometimes you may be that weakest link. You in 2024, you may have been that weakest link. So what's the baseline we're operating at? So if you by yourself can make 100K easy, how do you now reach your goal of 350K? Now you can say, I want to duplicate myself 3 times. That means you have to make 3 new hires, right? Or just like what we mentioned here, let's say, for example, you're at $8,000 a month. So you're at $2,000 a week you're making. So at $2,000 a week, you can now decide, hey, that might be 1 service upgrade I have to work on. Let's say you want this. Now you may have to say, I need 3 service upgrades a week. So this is broken down as a rough estimate of where you are. And then let's say you want to go to 350 a month, right? So now we're doing 8 times 3, you're looking at 24K. Let's put that as another color just so we can see the contrast. So let's say for 2025 now, our vision is to hit 350. So we're going from this to here now. So we know we got to make 3 times the profit, 3 times the revenue, 3 times the sales, 3 times the work from this year to this year. So for here, we need 24K, 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 24, 24, all the way to December, just so you guys can understand.
That's $288,000.
That's going to be $288,000 per Tommy. So 288, that's still a little shy of 350. So you might have to bump this up to 25 across the board. So this is just a gauge. But off the bat, off the rip, you already know that you need to work 3 times as hard. Remember, we mentioned, why is this so important? It's because you have to understand at the speed in which you need to operate. If in the beginning of the year, you decide to hit 350K and you have that vision statement, the mission statement, you now have that contract with yourself. So now you understand how much more work is involved. Now, here's the thing. If you start saying, oh my God, I'm not having time with this, I'm not having time, I don't have work-life balance, I'm too stressed. You should have already had that in your blueprint because you already know you're going up in revenue. So you have to go up in your efforts. But at the same time, you already made that contract with yourself, right? That's part one. And remember, part two, the foundation is you. You may be that weakest link. If you start recognizing you don't have that in you, or you prioritize other things, or this is overwhelming, pause for a second, understand your limitations. Because guess what? You made that contract with yourself. You made the vision. You made the mission statement. And now if you're feeling some type of way, you have to recognize maybe this is not the thing I want. And then you have to quickly restructure and prioritize your goals again. But if you understand what it is going to take, if you understand the speed you need to operate at, then you have to let it rip. Okay? So this is just a visual representation of why putting this stuff down on paper is so valuable. So let's recap just from the beginning. So we understood that to develop your blueprint, we had to recap parts 1 to 3, and then we're going to combine those details throughout the chapters. But now we're over here at our vision statement. Why is a vision statement so important? Well, we already talked about that. We said a vision statement is so important because it's a visual representation of what you are going to do. So at here, at Energize Us, we are going to empower generations towards the skill trades. That's our vision. Boom. I can see myself across the US. I can see myself traveling, the team, the schools popping up everywhere to empower generations. How are we going to do that? Who's our target audience? What are our mission statements? Well, we are going to empower generations by media, by educating, and by professional development. And when we use media, when we use education, when we use professional development, we are going to build builders and leaders. And guess what? They're going to be the builders. They're going to be the leaders that are empowered in the skill trades. That is our vision. That is our mission statement. We signed that contract with ourselves. We now understand our weak points. Now our parameters in which we're going to attack it within these 12 months, how much we want to make. Let it rip because we built out our blueprint. This is A to Z on why visually writing things down is so valuable. Yes, there's guys who put it on the top of their head. Yes, there's some guys who write it on some cardboard, just like when you're on the job site, just like when you're an apprentice. But guess what? Those get thrown away. If you have this contract, if you have this visual representation of what you want to do in the future, this is going to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for you. Because guess what? As the years start going, as the years start moving, as the month starts going, the weeks start passing, you use this as your ground. You come right back to it, get grounded. Hey, you start getting lazy, you start getting complacent, ground yourself. What's the contract I made with myself? Hey, I didn't have a good quarter. How am I going to fix this? Ground yourself again. If I want to do this, if I want to do that, hey, there's new opportunities coming, but it doesn't align with your vision statement, doesn't align with your current mission statement. Let's save that maybe for next year, because we know through a race, you don't want to start switching gears. You already have the roadmap. You already have the game plan. Don't lose it. Now, as we start working, as the years start going and the month starts passing by, you have to recognize all the work that you're putting in. You are attacking your vision. You're bringing to life exactly what you wanted to do. You deserve a reward. And that may sound childish. That may be almost funny to say, but you truly have to reward the work of yourself as well as the team who's helping you meet your vision, meet your mission statement. So rewards are needed when you are reaching your goals. But just like rewards, so too consequences. If you didn't meet, let's say, for example, there's a lot of individuals who break it down into their monthly or quarterly goals. So, for example, we know quarterly is every 3 months throughout the year. There's 12 months in a year. So every 3 months you do a analysis, just like where we went into part 2, personal assessment. You should always reflect back to your business assessment. So we understand within every 3 months, every 3 months, you're going to have a quarterly review. Let's say I am in the negative in this month. Okay, I still am planning for the entire year out. Why did we not hit our target? Is it because something foreseen? If so, is it in the business plan? Awesome. If we foresaw it, guess what? That means quarter 2 is we need to catch up in quarter 2, 3, and 4. Did something pop up unexpected? Yep. Then let's add that to our vision statement so we can prepare for it, just like we talked about in part 3. What's our industry? What's our market? What's the market telling us? Hey, during this period of time, things are pretty slow during the holidays. That's something to keep in mind. So depending on if you meet your goal, surpass your goal, or come under your goal, you have to treat yourself to rewards and or consequences. Because what did we say? You made the goal of, I want this by the end of the year. You know the speed you need to operate at. So we talked about these are just examples. So if on paper you need to hit 24K a month roughly, and you're at 20K, guess what? Now you got to kick up the speed. So if you go from 8K to 24K, you have to work 3 times as hard, and you recognize that you're not producing 3 times worth of effort or 3 times worth of revenue coming in. You have to also handle consequences. You have to understand that that time has to come from other opportunities. Are you going to sacrifice other things to now catch up on those goals? If you don't want to, that's fine. But now you're breaking the promise you made with yourself. If you are the few who want to tackle that, you have to understand, just like with rewards, you also have to be held to consequences. Keep that in mind. Rewards and consequences. What's so beautiful about this vision board? Once again, it's used for you to ground yourself. You have to understand that this is always going to be here for you to ground yourself. So how are we going to use this as a reflection point? How are we going to use this to ground ourselves? Well, we understand this is going to help us create our priorities. We know our year now written out. We understand at the speed in which we want to operate because we have our baseline now. Correct? Awesome. We know how fast we want to go. We know where we want to go. We made the contract with ourselves. But when you start writing this plan out, there's some things you want to keep in mind. Your priorities. For example, are you married? Do you have kids? Are you expecting a child? Are these okay? Are they okay? Are all of these goals in line with your family's priorities? That's why you have to prioritize time. If you know I want to spend the holidays with my family, which guess what? Is quarter 4, October, November, December. In October, November, December, quarter 4, we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You know this holiday season's coming. And if you have a family and if you want to spend time with them, but at the same time you want to hit your goal, now you got to flip it. You got to start the year off strong to ride you into quarter 2, to ride you into quarter 3, so that you can take it easy in quarter 4. Or vice versa. Let's say you don't have kids, right? And then you want to just use the beginning of the year because it's New Year to take it easy. One, if you want to start January off taking it easy, that's scary. But 2, if you say, hey, I want to relax after January 1st, you want to go have fun, that's fine. But then you'll understand that you have to pick up the trail now start off with no momentum, the half of quarter one, all the way out to the end of the year. If you have time, dates, expecting some things, this is the time to prioritize them. So you know, hey, the week before, the week after, the month before, the month after, the quarter before, the quarter after, you have to attack at a higher frequency, at a higher level to make sure you don't miss those. So prioritize your time. That's either family, you personally, or with your team. And guess what? The beautiful part about this is you are being held accountable with yourself. This blueprint is the contract you have with yourself. So guess what? You should share that with your team, yourself, and the family. Or your team, yourself, and your family should be aware of your priorities. Because if they're aligned with you in the same vision, in the same mission, they're going to allow you to work at the speed in which you need to operate, especially if you say, hey, babe, I got to work Q1 to 3 so I can take it easy at the end of the year with the holidays. That's the things you need to keep in mind. This is the visual representation you need so you have the confidence to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Hey, babe, hey, kids, this is the way I'm going to attack the year. So when daddy's working, when daddy goes out, when daddy's doing all this thing, I'm doing all of this, I'm working late so I can have October, November, December for you. Instead of just winging it day to day, canceling a job, moving it last minute, all that chaos happens. All the stress comes when you don't have systems, you don't have a plan. So share that vision, share that mission, share the priorities you have with the people you have them with. Then you want to have a proactive mindset. Step 3, you want to be proactive. You want to now document. You want to now update the patterns that you're seeing. Hey, this is happening a lot. Hey, one of my guys keeps calling out. Take a proactive approach. Start documenting those stuff. Because if something down here is going to affect you, you want to start knowing those things. Hey, someone keeps coming in late. Someone keeps calling out on Friday afternoons. Interesting. Be proactive. Don't be reactive. Don't be those guys who say, there's too many guys up here taking jobs away from us. No, be proactive. Understand your market, that structure. Step 4, you update your plan. If patterns happen, if things happen, update your plan. Review it frequently. Update it, review it, and then repeat the entire cycle. If something updates and is now going to affect your priorities, you better share that with the people that it's going to affect. Then keep proactive. If things happen again, update the plan, review the plan, start it all over again. Share it with the people you have priorities with, et cetera, et cetera. So this is like when we develop systems. You have your SOPs, but then you have your QCs to make sure you're following your SOPs. You have to constantly update and review your vision board, your vision statement, your mission statement, your blueprint. This is part 4 of the business blueprint. This is exactly what you're going to use to ground yourself for the upcoming year. I'm so happy to share this with you guys. Once again, this is all going to be discussed. This is all going to be broken down even more and tailored to you for all the members in the Build Association. We're going to be going over this December 21st with your very own e-workbook and your physical workbook so we can write down physically our vision for 2024. But for you guys who are just joining us today, hopefully this gave you some value. Like, subscribe, comment, share with all your friends about how you can develop your own builder's business blueprint. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to comment down below. Thank you, everybody.